Sean Campus. Welcome to our coffee hangout. Um, 3 ways to improve your marriage communication. Before I get into that, the next few weeks we will be putting on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday marriage communication masterclass, and so it'll be in the evening time. Um, in fact, you can get the information by clicking on the link in my YouTube channel. In that link, I will send you an invitation to attend and to participate. You're welcome to bring your spouse. You're welcome to attend by yourself. Um, However you want to do it is fine. You're going to benefit a whole lot. And one of the biggest things that we have in our relationship that's challenging, and at different times in our relationship, it's for different reasons. One of the biggest things that we have to break down and that would bridge the gap to so many things if we can communicate with each other a whole lot better. And so I'm going to help you to walk through effective ways of being able to communicate, and then really what's stopping you, because I have a feeling that a lot of us already know how to communicate um, well whenever we need to, but in our marriages and our relationships we struggle to have the kind of communication that brings us together, right? So look forward to giving you guys more information about that and spending more time with you and helping your relationships around that idea that is probably one of the biggest in our relationships with it, which is communication. All right, so let's look at the 3 ways to improve your marriage communication. So the first way to improve your marriage communication, and this is not going to be one of the ideas that we're going to say, oh, you know what? Like if you say I statements, that's going to help. And if you listen before you speak, like those are some strategies or some tactics that might be useful. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be the thing that sustains our communication. Okay. So the first thing that's going to sustain our communication is that you need to be able to understand the source of your behaviors. And so how do behaviors happen? So it's really important for us to realize that behaviors happen as a result of a sequence of events. The first sequence of events is that you need to be able to think about or have a meaning about whatever the situation was. So the situation doesn't cause us the issue, it's us thinking about or believing or being somehow hooked into an experience, right? So that's a really important distinction to make. The situation does not create the scenario. In fact, I like to say it like this: if a situation created a certain kind of feeling, then everybody would feel the exact same way whenever a situation happens. And the truth is, people feel in different um, degrees of feelings and have different kinds of outcomes with each situation, right? So it depends on how close you are. Think about like an earthquake scenario. The person closest to the epicenter probably feels and is affected more than the person further away, but it's not necessarily the earthquake that creates that feeling. It's the proximity to the earthquake that creates that scenario. All right. So hopefully you're picking up what I'm telling you, because it's really important. The idea that the event is not the situation that absolutely causes your experience. It's more about what your experience is or your relationship to that scenario, how you think about it, what you believe about it. Those things affect how you're going to feel in the situation. Now, this is really important because the feeling that you get out of that situation is the part that starts your behavior, right? And so we're talking about communication here, and the idea that feeling ends up in your communication is really important. If we're going to change what it is that we need to how we're going to communicate, the first thing that we have to do is understand that it's my belief and my thoughts and my experiences that actually hook me into a way of feeling about what's going on. All right. So if you can understand that, and you might have to go back and rewind it. If you can understand that, then you start knowing, okay, where is my point of change? How do I get to change my communication? Do I go to the communication, the behavior part? Well, that's one way. But the truth is, if we don't change how we understand and think about what's going on, then we're going to keep ending up in the same kind of ways or routes of communicating because it's a pattern um, that's affected by our knowledge, our experience about a scenario more than anything else. Okay. And so we need to be able to get this as a kind of as a first step, right, to really being able to help us. How I think about things, how I have experienced things in the past, those things will hook me into feeling some kind of way. That feeling will create my behavior and my communication, the way that I'm going to interact with my partner. All right, the second one is the idea that you need someone to do something else for you to be okay. So I think this comes from a really natural space, and then depending on what we've experienced in life, it starts turning into something else. Um, but the sentence that says, I need somebody else to do something else for me to do to be better or to feel better or to get to a better place or to have a different relationship. That sentence, it doesn't matter whether you're blatantly saying it or you got a sneaky way of saying it. That sentence informs how you're going to communicate. Because if I believe that somebody should be doing something else for me to be okay, my desperation, my need, my wants, all those things start changing around based on this idea that I have that says that this person I need to somehow control, right? And so my communication shifts. So the idea that I know that we need to have in order to improve our communication here is actually I don't need anybody to do anything different for me to be okay. Matter of fact, I'm the person who needs to do something different for me to be okay. What do I need to do? And having that quest or that kind of conversation with yourself start shifting over the way that you're going to communicate with your partner in your relationship. Okay. That, by the way, piggybacks on the first one. So if you're able to go back and watch, you'll see how those two things actually kind of run together. And then the last one is uh, an art form. So actually, all of these end up being some kind of art form. So for those of us who need something that's like concrete, like 1 + 1 = 2, and we can see how that works, um, that's not always going to be the case because these are more of like arts. Like each individual will have their way of being able to put these together that'll work for them. Okay. So this last one is being able to understand your influence. So, well, what happens, and I think the question usually as I have these kind of conversations are like, well, then how do I get them to do what I want them to do? Right. So we got to go back and visit the first two. But even more important is we need to understand that the more that we're controlling ourselves, the more that the situations around us start being what they need to be, right? So if you understand what your influence is in life, then you start being able to communicate in a powerful way versus in a powerless way. So if I don't understand that I make a difference in my own life and that I can actually support and love somebody else and that that's going to be highly effective for me, it's going to lower my idea of um, that I actually make a difference. So I communicate a different way. I communicate out of desperation and powerlessness. And when that happens, my communication style goes down and it's ineffective, right? And nobody wants to listen or nobody wants to cooperate. And I start creating for the people around me Instead of creating something that says, hey, move with me, I start creating a hesitation. I start creating a scenario where they're afraid to get on board. They're afraid to move in the way that I want to move because I'm jittery, right? If I can flip that, if I can understand that, look, I do actually have influence when I'm able to control me, that swag, so to speak, that you have in that moment, that strut that you have starts raising confidence for the people around you, and it gives them a chance to move with you. When they're moving with you, it's because they're ambitious. They're excited about what it is that you have going on and that you're doing so that they can be a part of it, right? So one of the communication styles, the first one where we're saying like you're creating a hesitation in somebody, you're making people go like this, right? Or making them go like this. And in those cases, they don't want to communicate with you. If you make somebody have to be defensive, or if you make somebody want to interact with some boxing, um, then it's going to make it harder to be able to create the communication that you want. But if you wrap your arms around somebody, figuratively at least, then they start moving with you if you're willing to put your hand out and soften up. Okay. So those three ideas are great starting points for you to be able to improve your communication and um, and really change your marriage forever. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy your day. Take care.